Dr. Z, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm living the dream over here. I'm glad you're here with me.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us, before I jump into this video that you sent me here this morning, what brought you to this space in Instagram?
So I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I've always worked with people who have been experiencing narcissistic abuse in all types of relationships, whether that's intimate, family, colleagues, friends, really any relationship, and just working with them on how to identify if what they're going through is some sort of narcissistic dynamic, how to navigate it, how to get out and leave it behind, and just really kind of guide them through that process, especially the post-separation aspect of it. How I got into it, when into private practice many moons ago, it was something that was coming up way more consistently than I had ever been taught would come up, right? I mean, I think we're all in agreement that when, 20, 30 years ago, this was not something that was, I'm sure it was always there, but it was not as well known, and it was misdiagnosed. And, we knew way more about borderline personality disorder. And so as I was seeing patients and kind of just through my career, there was this very obvious pattern that was emerging, which was narcissistic personality disorder in relationships. And so at the time, there really was not a lot of information out there. And what was out there was kind of your stereotypical, which is still part of it, but there was very little information on kind of that the underpinnings of NPD and what that actually looks like in a relationship, and gaslighting and manipulation and all of that, and coercive control. So, I really just kind of went in that direction, and then there was a real need for information.
And I think before, did they used to just call them assholes or jerks? Is that what people used to call them?
Yeah, I mean, I think there wasn't a word for it unless you were that very stereotypical Hollywoodized version of a narcissist, right? Which is still present, but there's so many more dimensions to it and so many more variations of it. So I really do think it was probably someone that was simply called an asshole, someone that was difficult, and somebody that was abusive, but the nuances were just missing.
Right. I mean, what do you see as the biggest thing people struggle with? Or what do you think is the thing that you wish people knew about this stuff that they just don't know, or seems to blindside them?
Yeah, I love that question. I think that it is a narcissist, somebody who is truly a narcissist will never present to you initially as a narcissist. And so I want people to understand that there is nothing wrong with them. They are not, meaning the people that meet the narcissist, there's nothing wrong with them. This isn't their fault. That this is exactly the whole point and purpose of it, is to start out as everything you want to be, as almost like this matching puzzle piece. And it's deliberate. It serves a purpose. And so if you're in these relationships, it is not your fault. And there is no way really that you would have seen this coming unless you are really very well versed in what love bombing looks like, because it's not this, it can be, but it's not, people think it's this lavish gifts and all of this stuff, which it can be, but love bombing is really just meeting the person where they, with all their needs that they want. It's something like, I love hiking. Oh, so do I. Let's go hiking tomorrow. That's not normally what you think love bombing is, but it is. And so I think these misdiagnoses and these mislabeling of terms get people into trouble. So I guess what I would want people to know is it's not your fault that you were in this.
And some people try to emphasize that part too. They emphasize, why didn't you see this coming? Anyone who has self-esteem, or anyone who has any awareness.
Where do we hear that?
in the comments, of course.
There's no way. What narcissists are so good at is masking and disguising their true intentions and the function of their behaviors. The function of their behaviors are power and control and dominance. And they dress that up beautifully in ways that you will never see coming.
And that's what I want people to understand, is that it's tricky if you don't know what to look for. People just don't know what they don't know.
That's right. That's exactly right. And, I think, and that's why, for people that do what you do and for people that do what I do, it's not about bashing narcissists. It's about getting people the education they need so that they don't end up in these situations. And if they do end up in these situations, they have the skill sets to be able to get out of it.
Exactly. And I think that's the benefit of all of us on social media is
Yeah.
we're helping the people in that spot. We're helping them get self-awareness about their situation, learn about trauma bonds, and then try to get
Exactly.
out.
And I always say, if it sounds that bad when, you or me, whoever else is in this space is talking about the behaviors of narcissists, it sounds that bad because it is that bad. It truly is that bad. It's not somebody being an asshole. It's so much bigger than that. It's a stripping of your self-identity. It's one step before a person truly would just end their life. I mean, that's how bad this is. So it's not just something that you should be able to see and get out of. It doesn't work like that.
It's very sneaky. And I like to say all narcissists are assholes, but not all assholes are narcissists.
Yes, exactly. I love it. Yes. You should get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, it's a good one. Right? So I want to play what you sent me this morning here. This is about the self-aware narcissist versions here. Yes. This is mind-boggling, especially considering what we just saw happen yesterday.
Yep.
Let's see here. So I'll play this and see what happens.
Hello, I'm Sarah Crossan, and I'm a narcissist.
And I've interviewed her.
Hey y'all, I'm Stephen Ingram, and I am a narcissist.
And him.
My name is Lee Hammock, and I'm a diagnosed narcissist.
I'm Richard Smith, and I'm a narcissist.
I'm Tessa, and I'm a narcissist.
My name is Jacob Skidmore, and I'm a narcissist.
My name is Jordan Monroe, and I am a narcissist.
Hi, my name is Leon Marble Walker Jr., and I'm diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder.
Why am I a self-proclaimed narcissist on social media? There was no one that I saw 4 years ago that was putting out any information about what goes on underneath the overt behaviors of people with narcissistic personality disorder. Sure, there were lots of victim channels out there. They would just say that we are demonic monsters. Over time, I started to connect with the community, and they were actually helping me grow. They were telling me that I was helpful. And I was like, holy moly. And then the community was helping me too, because they were telling me their stories. How am I helping other narcissistic people? I'm letting them know that they are not alone.
All right. So what do you think about that there?
So let me get my thoughts straight here. I think that there is, and we had discussed this earlier, I think there is a very big difference between being self-aware and having the willingness to tolerate the discomfort that comes along with wanting to change your behaviors. Because at the end of the day, if you're self-aware, then you are aware that your behaviors are harming others, right? You can't just pick and choose what you want to be self-aware about. So if you're self-aware of your behaviors and the result of those behaviors, that's fine. But then that missing link, I think that's missing in this video, is the idea of, okay, well, yes, you're self-aware. And are you changing your behaviors, or are you using this as a way to say that you're self-aware and simultaneously not doing anything to tolerate the discomfort or want to change the harm that your behaviors are causing? Because if you're self-aware, then you can actively make that choice.
I agree with that. And I think that guy, Christian, that I was speaking to before, he said a lot of times what they'll do is they'll fetishize why they do what they do.
Yes.
and they'll come up with this fancy explanation for it. But to me, too often, it's really just to manage their image, or it's kind of a playing the victim routine. And I see it.
Yeah.
And I think that can be concerning for the people that are just finding this stuff.
I think that it also is a way to remove accountability. Well, I did this because I'm a narcissist, right? Or, I'm aware that I'm a narcissist, and therefore I'm going to tell you why I did this and this. But it removes that accountability, right? Like, it's just one thing to know you're a narcissist, great. But then I also question, here's the other piece of it too, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. There's two ways this can go. Either you are truly aware that you're a narcissist and you just don't care and it benefits me. I'm not giving that up. Or you're just going to say you think you're even though you are a narcissist, you're going to say you're a narcissist so you can benefit it and use it on your platform. But at the end of the day, you're not a narcissist. You're not a label. You're above that. Right?
I think it could be either. I think it
Yeah.
could be either one, depending.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is they're just feeding their grandiosity. They get all of these social media followers on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it inflates even further
Yes.
their grandiose sense of self.
Yes.
It is the opposite of humility.
Yes.
And then they'll act in all the ways that you see narcissists act. That's the best thing they do. Is it's just a demonstration of,
Correct.
this is what you want
Correct.
to avoid. This
And I
is what you
think-
not want to do.
I think where it's tricky is that, and we were talking about this before too, that there are some of those social media self-aware narcissists I follow, because some of the information that they're giving in terms of why narcissists do certain things that they do is accurate. I mean, some of the things they say about, the reasons they do what they're doing, about the main function being power and control and the degree of the manipulation and why they're doing it like this, it is true. The piece, again, that's missing is that next step of, here's why we do what we do. And here's why we get you to respond the way we do. But there's nothing in any of this of any remorse, any guilt, any effort to want to change. And there's this misconception that just because you're self-aware, that equates to wanting to get better, wanting to heal. Because the one thing about somebody who is a narcissist is they are getting what they need. And so why on earth would they change it? What would have to happen truly for a narcissist to change means that they need to completely undo their core sense of who they are, give that all up, and move into and lean into what is so brutally uncomfortable and painful. And I don't care how good of a therapist specialist you are, even if a narcissist stays in therapy long enough, which does not happen, or they're with a therapist that maybe doesn't get that it's a narcissist, and so then they stay in therapy because therapy ends up being a platform or a stage for them to get their ego reinforced and the victimhood and all that stuff. That's different. But to really make change, you're going to make the tiniest bit of change in session, and to have that generalize outside of the therapy session, I just don't see that, have never seen that happen. So I think people see this and think, well, they're self-aware, aka they're trying. No, they're self-aware in quotes, and using that, as you said, to feed their ego by talking about the behaviors that they do. But there's no remorse underlying that. There's no changing. And then using, well, if we can't change, why would you expect us to change? It's not our fault. But here's why I have a problem with that. Because if, narcissists are very selective and very deliberate and very calculating in how they abuse, when they abuse, and who they abuse. And that is such a complex web that they spin. They're very aware of what they're doing. We already know that. That's not the issue. And so I think that's what's, again, I keep repeating myself, but I think that's what's missing.
And I think when they talk, it's all about them. And it's all about how they see things and how it makes them feel. And that's where the remorse and the guilt part is missing. They're not talking about how they've harmed others and how much they care about that, because the best amends is changed behavior. And if you truly care that you've hurt someone, what will you do? You're going to do your best to change the behavior. And that's the part that's missing. You don't see how they do the action steps. So with someone like the Bat Wolf, who I'm about to rip later today. So if you really wanted to change, you say, you know what? I got triggered when I saw Dr. Salerno and Jared talk about how not all narcissists are insecure and there's a large genetic component. And I wanted to lash out at them. I wanted to be furious and then spread a smear campaign. But instead, I took a step back and said, you know what? Jared and Dr. Salerno, we were willing to talk to me. We invited him on the show. And I refused. And I did what I did instead. But you didn't see that happen. Instead, you just saw poof, straight to the antagonism, straight to the lies and the smear campaign. So that's how you know there's no actual progress there.
No, because again, if you hear that, and Dr. Salerno was he was very neutral in his presentation of the data, right? He was very calm, cool, and collected. He presented facts. He even said, you may disagree with me, and that's fine, but here's the facts. And so listen, this goes for any of us. It doesn't even matter if you're a narcissist, but when we're told that we hurt somebody, our initial reaction, if that's been our pattern for so long, right? And I always say this, sometimes people demonstrate behaviors that look narcissistic on the surface, right? They can look identical, but when you break it down, the function of both are inherently different. One is to gain power and control. The other one may just be learned patterns of behavior. You don't know how to act any different. When you tell that person and bring it to their awareness, and it goes against what they know, right? Like in this situation, you're giving them evidence and it does not sit well with them. They don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable. Somebody who's not a narcissist may initially push that away and start an argument because it's uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, if you're not a narcissist and you know that you're hurting people and you see around you that people around you are distancing themselves, they're dropping like flies, you are now alone, or you see people you love hurting, it's going to affect you deeply, right? Whether you change or not is your choice, yes. But I find in my experience that even if it's slow, people that aren't narcissistic, they will start to change. Even if it's slow, you're not going to see this immediate change. None of us like change. None of us, right? And some of us are very slow to change. It's a hard pill to swallow. But I think what you were saying, and I think what we see in these videos, is that there may be this initial yes, I'm going to change, and then nothing happens, or what you saw, which is this immediate just pushback, just 0 to 60, just not willing to sit in it for any millisecond and just do the opposite because it's so unbearable and it completely goes against their entire sense of identity and sense of self. So then it begs the question, are you really self-aware? Are you really? Because that's not what a self-aware person does.
Right. I think that's where the empathy impairment comes into play too. Because the best they could ever do is cognitive empathy. It's not as if, and granted, there's a spectrum of empathy, just like there's a spectrum of narcissism too. But that empathy impairment, that really can get in the way of them even wanting to change, I think.
That's right. I agree. And I think, and just to piggyback on that, for people listening that don't maybe know what cognitive empathy is, narcissists are very good at parroting how they should respond, what they should say, how they should feel. You know, should they cry in this? Should they laugh? Like, what should they do? And so they very well may know that what they're doing is wrong, or they may know that they should feel empathetic because that's what you're supposed to be doing. But that's very different than actually feeling empathy. And it's that feeling of empathy that motivates the change. Cognitive empathy may give off this illusion that they're wanting to change, but it's not based in anything real. There's no desire to change that.
Right. And at the end of the day, you pay attention to their actions, and that's for all of them, right? Don't pay attention to what they say.
Nope.
People in general, not even just narcissists, right? You pay attention to their actions. They speak the loudest of all about what their priorities are and what they think and feel.
I actually tell people, one of the things one of the exercises I do with people who I see is I tell them, when they get the raging text messages from the narcissist or whatever it is, I tell them to actually like look at it, you could put it through a translator thing so it comes up in a different language so that it becomes completely irrelevant because it separates you from the function of their behavior. Their words are just distraction. And so I have them, like the Peanuts characters with the teacher, the want. I actually have them or I have them take a certain word and mix it in with a word that makes no sense. Like they're reading a word and they'll just say banana and it throws off the meaning of everything. Because it's exactly what you said. The wording, it literally is just a distraction. It means nothing. And you have to look at the patterns of the behavior. And at the end of the day, it is such a distinct playbook. Everything else is a distraction.
And you just reminded me there, those are some of the tips that I would say to people that when you can't go no contact, such as in a co-parenting situation. Yeah. But what other tips do you have for people in that situation when they can't go no contact like we tell most people to do? Mm-hmm. They have to interact with them a little bit. Yep. What are your suggestions for that case?
Yeah. So in situations, particularly in co-parenting, right? Or if you work with somebody and you can't, I always say everything in writing, always, all the time. And when you're responding to anything, you only use facts and you only use, anything that can be proven. So you never want to use any opinions or emotions in your responses to them. Write it first, put it down, go back to it 15 minutes later. Because sometimes when we're really heated and emotional, we all do this. We may respond and use it, right? And so if they send you, narcissists are very good at sending novels, right? So when they send you a novel, you want to go through it. And let's say it's with a co-parent and they're saying, Jaime, you are the crappiest parent ever. And, you're horrible to our children and they're going to be so screwed up because of you and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to take you to court. I'm getting full custody and whatever. But then somewhere in that kind of just barrage of BS, they ask the question, what time are you picking up the kids? Your response to that is only going to be 7:00. Because every response you give them is something that they want. So you have to just kind of sit with all that ickiness and discomfort you feel, and you only respond to the one thing that they're asking you. And if there's nothing that they're asking you, you don't respond. You do not respond. The only control you have is how you choose to respond to them, right? And so by doing that, you can't change their behavior, but you can shape it. And you're kind of manipulating them without them realizing that they're being manipulated. And it's empowering. And you realize that your emotional response to it becomes a little less heated.
Right. I love that about the Charlie Brown teacher thing because that really disempowers them, I think. And just like I tell people to listen to or imagine the Curb Your Enthusiasm music playing whenever you get a text from them. Anything that disempowers them in your mind, I tell them to see it like an emotional 4-year-old because that's what they are.
That's right. You literally have to, it's called cognitive diffusion. You literally have to separate yourself cognitively, emotionally, physically from them. Even though they're still here. You can't do anything about that. But what you can do is untangle yourself and learn how to look at their stuff rather than being tangled up in it. So I do a lot of those kind of strategies with people rather than trying to, because this is pointless, to try to get them to understand you, to try to get them to see your point, to try to get them to, that doesn't work. And it'll never work.
I didn't know that was the name of that term. It's called cognitive fusion.
Diffusion.
Diffusion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. It's part of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is very behavior based. And so it's very much about not trying to, it's like stopping the struggle against not feeling something, not thinking something, and stop being so tangled up in that, instead being able to separate yourself from it and look at it rather than being all jumbled up with it, which we see all the time in narcissist abuse.
I love that. And I think you just reminded me also, the other biggest struggle I see people have is they drive themselves crazy trying to hold a narcissist accountable. They want them to agree with their perception of reality, admit they did something wrong. And then the narcissist will do what they do. They'll flip the script, use Darvo, deny, accuse, reverse victim and offender, be antagonistic, throw subtle jabs, word salad, move the goalposts. And they just people lose their mind and then
Mhm.
they'll start to jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. What do you tell people in that spot?
Yeah. So I just had this conversation the other day. It was a situation where somebody is divorcing a narcissist, and the mother is also very much a narcissist. And it's interesting when they talk about the divorce with the husband, they automatically include the mother in it. So it almost sounds as if they're divorcing the mom too, which is just a red flag in and of itself. Because when you marry a narcissist, you don't just marry one person, you usually marry one of the parents that they're associated with, right? So in this situation, the person was saying, I hope the mom sees this, this, and this in the court documents. I hope the mom, and I stopped them. I said, this is a grown man, and you're asking, you hope his mom sees, right? And so I think I think that the need to have the narcissist see what's happening. I think what people need to understand is that the narcissist is deliberately trying to get you so riled up to get them to see it. They know exactly what they're doing. They're doing that on purpose. So the more you try to waste your time, your energy, your brain power, your physical self on trying to get them to see it, that's exactly what they want. They don't care. They just want to own your time because they don't have access to you anymore. Let's say, so all they have left is to own your time, your emotions, and your headspace. And so, it is deliberately set up for them to do that to you. They will never give that to you. They know what they're doing. They know they'll never give that to you. And so you can try all you want, but the best thing you can do, even if it's killing you inside, is to I hate saying let them off the hook, because you're not doing that. You're taking yourself off their hook. They're always going to be on their hook. You're taking yourself off their hook, not getting them off the hook, but off their hook.
Now, I like it put that way because it's not letting them win. It's
No.
doing what you got to do for you.
Yeah, because here's the thing. In a non-narcissistic, let's use divorce for an example. In a non-narcissistic divorce that's extremely still toxic but not narcissistic, the goal in those types of divorces, right, is to have it be done. You don't want to deal with this person anymore. You don't want to mess your kids up. Like, let's just be done. I want to be done with you. I hate you. You hate me. Right? Like, you cheated. You did this. You did this. I don't want to screw our kids up. Neither do I. Let's just be done with each other. Right? In a narcissistic divorce, that is not the motive. In a narcissistic divorce, the way they win is by continuously dragging you through court, financially abusing you, legally abusing you. The best thing you can do for it, people assume that a narcissist winning means they get X, Y, and Z from you. No, the narcissist's primary goal is to consume your brain space. It's to live rent-free in your mind, consume your time, your energy, and just consume every emotion that you have. That's how you let a narcissist win. And so to have them lose is to separate yourself from them emotionally, cognitively, and physically. So it's a different type of winning that feels like and I always have people say this to me, I feel like I'm losing. You're not losing, because the way they lose is to no longer have control over you. And that's why it's different.
Indifference, right? Indifference is the way.
Indifference, yep.
Because they love both positive and negative reactions.
That's right. That's right. Rolling your eyes or slamming the phone down, even though you feel you're in control, you're actually giving them what they want, right? A way to be neutral would be responding to that one question amongst all of the harassment that just says, I'll be there at 7:00. Oh, they hate that. They hate that. Right. That's the best thing you can do.
I think it's really helpful what Dr. George Simon said about it too. He said, it's not that they don't see, they disagree, right? They disagree with what's going on here. People waste a lot of time trying to get them to see.
Yes.
This is how it is. Yes. It's not that they don't see, they just disagree with you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They don't care.
They don't care. They don't care. And I think what is so painful for people to comprehend, because it's so unfathomable, is that people, it's like what they're doing is so bad and so mean and oftentimes really just evil. And for somebody to actually wrap their brain around the fact that somebody is actively choosing to do that really is just, it's mind numbing, right? It makes sense. Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. What can I do to make this up? I cannot believe I did that. I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. I will do whatever I need to make this right. You can choose to forgive them or not, but for the narcissist, you're not going to get that response unless they need something from you.
Right. Right. Now, that's one thing I see a lot of people struggle with. They really struggle with accepting that's how they are. And I tell them, like, you got to put them in the narcissist box and treat them accordingly. But what do you tell people that they're really struggling to accept that's just how they are?
I think that if I'm being brutally honest, I think it really does a number on your faith in humanity. Honestly, I mean, the truth of the matter is, I mean, we're so in this population that it's like really all we see all day. But the truth of the matter is, like, most people are decent people, right? Like most people don't want to hurt other people. They're not seeking their day and their structure and the way they live their life is not contingent on how much they can control other people, right? So, most people aren't like that. And so I think when people realize that somebody who is supposed to love them, protect them, care for them unconditionally, if it's a parent, want the best for them, genuinely wants to not necessarily hurt them, but take all of that from them until they're left with nothing. And as a way to manipulate them, knowing that they're hurting them, but not caring, that is like, I mean, and I hear this all the time. It's like their world just imploded. The rug just got pulled out from under them. They literally lose their stability. They feel like they're losing their sanity because it's such a massive shift. I don't think people realize it's not just a toxic breakup or a toxic ending of a family relationship. I mean, your entire perception of yourself in relation to the world is completely destroyed. You don't know who to trust now because it totally blindsided you. Everything is just shifted, and it's such a traumatic experience for people. That I think the first thing I do with people is when that happens is I do tell them that right there is the starting point, unfortunately, of healing. That needs to happen in order for you to move forward. Without that, you can't move forward. And it's unfortunate, but it's kind of like that's the lowest point, and now you can start to move forward.
All right. And it's a hard thing. And it takes time for people to truly accept. And then the healing process takes time too.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, I also tell people if you never fully accept it, I mean, that's okay because you're a good person. You should not be able to wrap your brain around this. It's so mind-bent. And I do this for a living. And sometimes still to this day, I will hear things and it's like, what? It's like, what? Like, God, I mean, so it's not something necessarily for somebody to fully accept, but it has to be something that they at least can see happened, right? And if they grow to accept it, that's amazing. I think that ability to look at it objectively is the biggest piece of it, because then you can then I tell people, and you know this, I'm sure, from people that you talk to, that once you see it, you will never unsee it. Once you see their patterns and you realize what's happened and that seismic shift has happened, you'll never unsee it. And that's very empowering because now you can predict their behavior a million miles away. And you almost get this sense of like, really? Are we really doing this again? And I joke with people, and they think I'm crazy when I say this first, but you'll know you're doing better when you can look at the behavior and actually laugh.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And at times they're like, what do you mean this isn't funny? I'm like, no, I don't mean that it's funny, but you're going to laugh at the predictability of it. And you're going to realize how how predictable and common the playbook is.
Right. And it is one of their struggles. They really struggle with getting to that point, and they'll fight it. I notice them a
Yeah.
lot of times, they just fight it and they don't want to think, no, you have to treat them as if they're a narcissist. Like they try to
Yeah.
treat them like a normal person.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's just not what you can do
No.
with people like that. And that's what I see where I see that acceptance struggle come in.
Yes, I agree. And again, I go back to because most people are inherently good people. And so you can't use your regular logic on trying to understand narcissists and heal. You can't. It doesn't work. You almost have to go backward. Like you kind of
Right.
use backwards logic.
Right. And you mentioned before another huge dynamic that I don't think I've ever spoke about this with someone on here, but when a narcissistic mother interferes in her son's romantic relationship
Oh, yes.
and she triangulates or she inserts herself in between, disrespects boundaries. Could you talk about that dynamic?
Yes. So I think two things happen with this. And this is either your marriage is going to fail, and I'm going to make a blanket statement with that, or it's not going to fail, but it may always be a struggle. When you marry, we'll say, and yes, fathers are narcissists too, but in this particular example, we are saying moms. But when you marry somebody, let's say, and I'm going to say, let's say you're the female marrying a male whose mom is a narcissist. You are marrying both of them, period. You're not marrying the son, you are marrying the son plus mom. In the beginning, you're not going to know this. In the beginning, they are going to welcome you with open arms. They are going to essentially love bomb you, right? They're going to say, you're the best thing that ever happened to us. You're so great for my son. He adores you. I adore you. We love you. Where have you been? I mean, it's love bombing. However, what has already happened is the same thing you see in romantic relationships. It's the same playbook. Slowly, the seeds of character assassination, they're already being started. Things like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's certain things I'm starting to see. She's starting to worry me a little bit. And she'll start to say to her son, well, she works a lot. Is that, I mean, what if you have kids? Right? Or something like, I heard how she speaks to her mom. I don't, does she talk to you like that? And meanwhile, the son is, doesn't see any of this because it doesn't exist. And so mom slowly starts to have his ear. And as the son starts to take more and more steps towards autonomy, like moving in with them, getting engaged, the wedding, having a child, maybe moving somewhere for the wife's job or moving away for their own job or whatever the case may be, going to a school that the mom doesn't want them to, whatever. They parent differently, however, whatever. As that son takes steps towards autonomy, mom is going to try to gain more and more control over this. And one of those ways is drawing a wedge between son and mom because she will not be replaced. And so that wife or the girlfriend or whoever is now a threat, is now the enemy. And mom is going to do whatever they can to distance son from their partner, period. And at first it's very sneaky, it's very manipulative, but then it starts to be like, I haven't seen you in so long. Can we just go to dinner, just the two of us? Now, in any other situation, that's adorable. Great. Go with your mom, have an amazing time. I love that. That's great. I hope my son does that with me one day, right? But that's not the function of the behavior. The function of the behavior is to slowly isolate the son from the wife so that she can slowly start to put little seeds of doubt in son's head. Now, where the issue becomes the issue is, how son handles the boundary violations. Mom comes over, just busts into the house whenever she feels like it, comes in, takes the laundry, goes home and does the laundry, right? Or comments on the parenting styles and offends the partner for how they're parenting or how they choose to work or how they dress. You name it, they do it. What does the son do? If the son routinely makes excuses for mom's behavior, She doesn't mean it. She's just doing what she knows. She loves us. She just wants the best for us. She just wants the best for her grandkids, or, you know, she just wants to be included and she feels left out. I've always been there for her. Then you have a problem. But if the son acknowledges that behavior and presents with you as a unified front, for example, mom emails son and says, do you want to go for lunch? But doesn't include wife. But then son responds with wife in on the text message, which is what I recommend to people to do, and say, I'm copying Jaime on here. She's going to come to lunch with us also. Or, Jaime, do I have any plans today? Do we have any plans today? Can I go to lunch? And so slowly doing that, because you have to present as a unified front. If the son is unwilling to do that, the marriage will never work out. I'm making a blanket statement with that. It just won't. If the son is willing to set boundaries and present as a unified front with their partner, then that's a different situation.
And this part is fascinating to me because there's so many parts of it, right? There's the narcissistic mother that maybe parentified the son. Maybe there's enmeshment. Maybe the son's narcissistic. Maybe the son's not narcissistic. I don't know. But that's one
Or
element.
there's financial, or there a lot of times there's financial contingencies, right? If you don't do X, Y, and Z, you don't get any money, right? You don't get the business that's supposed to be handed to you. So usually in the background there's some sort of hook. There's something that keeps them there. Or like you said, they infantilize the child. So they can't make decisions without their mom. And so there's a lot of behind the scene things. It's not as simple as just setting a boundary and presenting a unified front.
No.
There's a lot of other things behind that.
I think another common example I hear is how maybe the family, like the parents, they'll have kids and they have rules about how they want their children posted. Yes. And then the mother or father, they'll just do whatever they want. They'll disobey those boundaries and say, no, I should be able to post my grandkids.
Right.
And then the mom of so many women reach out to me and have this very dynamic. And I'm like, well, you got to tell your husband to be having conversations with the mother, because there's so many different layers to the dynamic here, right? There's mom, son, son to mom, her to him. And it's like, there's so many moving parts.
And make no mistake, they're not posting, if it's a narcissistic mom, they're not posting that picture because they want people to see the grandkid. They're posting that picture to show that they have control. They can do what they want. You can't set rules for them. They will violate those boundaries left and right. That's not about, it's about, I want to show how, I want to be the most amazing grandparent on the planet. But it's more than that. It's a deliberate violation of your boundary, because they know that that is a way that they can gain access to you and cause an argument in the home with them not being physically present. So they are still taking up space even when they're not there.
And do you see the son? Are they like a golden child son, or is it more of a scapegoat son a lot of times?
I see both. I see both. I see the sons that are the golden child, where there were no consequences to their actions, but they were also, as a result, held to very high expectations and high standards that they routinely would never reach, which is where the control piece comes in. If you want my love and you want this pedestal that I put you on, then you need to do this. And if you fail at it, then you need to try harder. And so it keeps them locked in this cycle. I see that. I see ones where, as you had mentioned earlier, that the mom was so over controlling and so overbearing that the child has no idea what they enjoy in life. They don't even know what music they like. They don't know how to operate unless, mom is on them and in their decision making at all times. So I see a lot. I see ones where the son feels it's their sole obligation to protect their mom, because the mom has made them over years think that they're accountable and responsible for mom's emotions. But regardless of how it presents, again, the underlying function of all of that is power and control always. And so how they dress it up, maybe on the surface is how you address it, but underneath it, it's all the same. And so that's what I tell people to look at, is not so much the details of it, but what's the purpose of it? And if it's the purpose is power and control, then that's what you have to address.
Right. And a lot of times, like you said, there can be some financial incentives and motives in there.
Yeah.
And usually the narcissistic parent, or mother in this case, they're going to have some some sort of manipulation tactic that they're going to be able to go to that gets the son to comply, whether it's a big emotional reaction, bullying, intimidating, or she'll guilt trip him. But she's got something that works. And when the son has been enmeshed with her or parentified, those manipulation tactics are very effective.
Yep. One of the ones I see, which is one that really, this is what it makes the hair on my neck stand up, because as a mom, I cannot fathom. Okay, here's a great example. Here's a good example of the difference where the behavior looks the same, but the function's different. A lot of times these moms, when a perfect example of how their manipulation tactic is to lie and say they're sick. They may have cancer, they may be dying, they may need surgery, something to get the child to feel guilty, or to get the attention from the child, or to have the child hear from a third party, your mom is sick and you're not even calling her to see if she's okay, all of that stuff. When you flip it as a mom, for me to try to get my child's attention by instilling panic and fear in my child that I may be sick and dying, I mean, that is so absolutely mind-blowing to me. And so for people that are listening, that you really kind of want to get a sense of what this is like, that would be if you kind of turn the tables and think about it as a parent, lying to your child that you have cancer just so they'll talk to you. Like, that's the level of dysfunction we're talking about. Right? We're not just talking about a fight.
No,
this is right. This is actually, did you see the documentary? It just came out about the mom. It was so disturbing, about the true story about the mom that was cyberbullying her daughter for over a year. And it was her the whole time, telling her to kill herself, telling her that
I heard of that story.
It's new. It's
documentary.
Okay, that's a perfect example. That is a perfect example where this mom was trying, it's almost like Munchausen's by proxy, where she was trying to create such drama for her child that her child would need her to comfort her, down to telling her child, acting as if it was someone who was bullying her over text message, you should kill yourself. That's where it went. That was like, that's where, how long and how bad, that's where it got to. And so it's kind of the same thing, is that in order to gain this attention from her child, she was bullying her as if she was another student, telling her to kill herself. That's what we're talking about.
That's
right?
insane. It's insane for people to even wrap their heads around that. A mother doing that to their daughter.
That's insane. You can't. And so it's the same kind of thing when you try to rationalize it or justify it with logic, you can't. And so that's why I tell people, when you're in these situations and you have a parent who is trying, as you said, to use these manipulative tactics, we're not just talking about like, like my grandmother would always say to me, like, no one calls me, and I what happens when I die? Like, it's not the standard, right? Like guilt tripping, that it's like a whole different level that you can't even conceive of. That's what we're talking about. And that's why when we say it's not just toxic, it's so much more than that.
It's extreme. It's not just a normal argument. It's not like it's one of the reasons I don't like it when people say, oh, everyone's a little narcissistic, because I think it downplays how severe these kinds of situations are.
Yes, exactly. And I'll have people say, like, well, you always give such extreme examples. Well, but that is it, right? Like that is what we're talking about, right? Listen, we've all been in situations where, we miss someone, or we feel neglected and we want to get attention. And so like we say, you never call me anymore. You call everybody, you don't call me. But that's not, it may be annoying, but it's not toxic. It's toxic if you do it all the time, every day, consume their life with it. And then when that doesn't work, you up the ante, and then you up it and you up it, because you need more of that supply and you need more of that feedback. And that's what you end up with.
Right. And whether it's a mother like that, or maybe there's like a father or stepfather that essays the kids, it's all it's extreme self-centeredness is what it is. Wanting what you want, no matter what, at all costs, regardless of who it hurts.
Yeah. And it's power. All of that is power. When you have a father, let's say, who, essays their child, that's about power and control over that child. Again, however however you go about doing it, it's the functions exactly the same. And so, that's the thing when people say, well, are they a narcissist? Are they not? Well, look at the reason why they're doing it. Are they doing it to gain power over you, to dominate you? Or are they doing it because they are, they don't know how to fulfill their day. They don't know how to communicate properly, and maybe they're anxious and depressed. So it looks like they're being self-absorbed, because anxiety and depression make us look selfish, but it's not narcissistic. There's a very big difference. So I completely agree with you. I think that it's an extreme behavior. I mean, narcissistic traits, yeah, I mean, sure, but that's not what this is.
All right. I think at the end of the day, there's a big difference between just some emotional immaturity, which a lot of people can have.
That's what I was trying to say. Yes,
right?
exactly.
A lot of people can be a little bit reactive or like a little sensitive to criticism, but their levels like much different. They're not going to be able to come around and say, oh, I was wrong, and I'm going to be able to try to improve my behavior, be honest, have humility.
Correct.
Someone who's emotionally immature, they might struggle to do it, but I think they can still do it. They can still try to do that.
Absolutely. Or they may, sometimes what happens is because they're not able to do it because it's too uncomfortable. Again, similar to a narcissist, but different. They don't continue to manipulate you. They may just shut down. They may just disconnect because the relationship is too difficult, right? You see these breakups all the time where it's a non-narcissistic breakup, but the person, let's say, is so emotionally disconnected and can't emotionally connect. And this person over here needs that emotional connection. And this person over here is incapable of it. They know they're like that. They apologize for being like that. It's just so uncomfortable for them. So they find somebody that doesn't require that. And it works beautifully for them, but there's no manipulation.
Right.
There's no need to gain power. It's not about that. What a narcissist will do is if they know you need that, they'll deliberately withhold it from you.
Yeesh.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Narcissistic abuse. No good.
Yeah.
And I think even in healthy relationships, compatibility is such a big thing, right? Finding someone that you are going to be compatible with, because that's also a lot of what I hear as well. A lot of these relationships are just not compatible either way.
Correct. That's right. And it doesn't mean the person's a narcissist, right? I mean, if you think about all the relationships you've had in your life, friendships, but intimate relationships, the reason why a lot of them don't work out is because compatibility issues, right? That doesn't mean that person isn't going to work out with somebody else. It's just that person may not require the things that person is incapable of giving. It doesn't make them a bad person. It just makes you not compatible, right? They're not purposely withholding it from you so that they get a reaction from you so that they can control your inner world. That's not what that is. I think people confuse that all the time with, again, somebody can be an asshole, somebody can not be compatible, somebody can just not, I don't like saying the love languages, but I don't know how else to say it, but someone may not have your love language. That doesn't make them a narcissist.
Right. Definitely agree. And I think for the people that have had a narcissistic parent or have been in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, a lot of times they can develop CPTSD. And I think also, I would say narcissistic fleas is a symptom of CPTSD. When you become a little bit like them in a way, you pick up on some of the behaviors. It's not full-blown narcissism, though. It's not like you're catching narcissism.
No.
But narcissistic fleas, I think, can be a thing.
I love that, narcissistic fleas. So, but and that is actually exactly what I'm talking about. The behaviors on the surface look similar because you've been around it for so long. So you're going to pick up on some of those patterns. One, because it may have been a survival mechanism if it was something that you were growing up with. Two, it may have been, just because you're around it all the time, you adapt to it in a weird way, which is why a lot of times people in these relationships with narcissists will oftentimes say to me, am I the narcissist? I think I'm the narcissist. I did this, this, and this. And it's because you picked up on those patterns for whatever the reason was. Again, the key difference is you don't like how you feel. You don't like these patterns. You're aware that they don't work for you. You want to change them, even though it's really difficult and it's scary. That's not what you're going to hear from a narcissist.
No, almost certainly not. And I would also tell to the people that if they've had a narcissistic parent and you grew up in that dysfunctional family, you got to be very careful with people who feel like home, if home wasn't a safe place for you.
I love that. Yep, exactly. That's exactly right. Because you are an expert at your patterns, even when they're unhealthy and even when you know they're unhealthy. And when you know they're unhealthy, but you can't break free of them, that's really upsetting to people. It feels horrible.
And that's where I'd say they got to give themselves some grace in that
Yes.
case too. Like be patient with yourself, but just trying and having the humility and self-honesty to acknowledge if you're falling short in some ways, but
Yes.
stand up and try to do better the next day because that's all we can do.
That's all we
And
can do.
the improvement part, moving forward towards that improvement, that's key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, listen, it's a lifelong process, right? One of the things you hear all the time is I need to get over this. I need to get past this. But the truth is whether you were in a narcissistic upbringing or with an intimate partner or a friend or whoever, there's actual brain changes that occur. There's actual the chemicals, all the stuff floating around in your brain, it changes. And so to have the pressure on yourself or the expectation on yourself to get back to who you were prior to this abuse. And even if you grew up this way, there is no prior. So you have to reformulate your whole identity, but there is no getting over it. And that's really too much for people to handle. It's learning to live alongside of it and seeing when it starts to infiltrate and when you need to take a step back from it. But I tell people, take it off your plate that you need to get past it, over it. I mean, it changed you. And part of healing is incorporating that into your process of moving forward so that you can live a fulfilled life and figure out what your values are and move forward that way, rather than struggling against trying to get over something that literally neurologically changed you.
Right. I mean, and healing's a never-ending process. It's not.
We're
I
all
don't
still
believe
healing.
in a.
Everyone's healing.
I don't believe in a finished product and healed. It's just always evolving, always growing. It's never done, I would say.
I agree. I agree with that. I think when you stop trying to, that doesn't mean that you don't like who you are and where you're at, but as life experiences change, I think it's a healthy person kind of adapts and adjusts and all throughout. It's when you get stuck that then it becomes an issue.
Absolutely agree with that. Now, the last thing I wanted to ask you about is your thoughts on the whole Sadia Khan situation. I know I've seen you in the comments in some of them.
Sadia Khan. Sadia Khan is a perfect example of somebody who has used her platform and her power and her presentation to manipulate and gaslight and control a hell of a lot of people. I think she's extremely toxic. I know she's extremely toxic. What she is saying is very much couched in manipulation. She targets people who are vulnerable. She creates this facade that they can become this strong person, but the way she does it is by belittling them and berating them. The way she speaks about survivors of narcissistic abuse is appalling. The way that if somebody disagreed with me on social media, and this happens all the time, all the time, I am more than happy to have a professional or even just a personal dialogue, right? That's the whole point of why we do what we do, is to educate, explain, and all that. When you disagree with Sadia Khan, who is supposed to be a professional, which she's not. She is not a psychologist. She is not a therapist. She is none of that. And I'm going on there and saying that. A professional who is in the mental health space will respond to criticism, disagreement with a calm, neutral, rational response, right? What Sadia Khan does is she will immediately 0 to 60 go to berating you in some very odd sexual way. Like calls you, tells you that you essay children, tells you that you, I can't even say it on here, but just really horrific, horrible things to people who gently ask her about her credentials. That's not how a professional works. That is not how somebody who is a legitimate professional works. Because if you're responding like that, it's to deflect, it's to draw, it's to make such a scene that the person doesn't even think to still ask for your credentials. Now they're defending themselves against not being some sort of predator or some sort of horrible, terrible human being. And that's the whole purpose of what she does. That's the gaslighting. So I think she's extremely dangerous. I think that she is not the voice of survivors. She is not the voice of people that have been victims of abuse in any way. She is solely doing this to make a profit, to boost her ego, and she is not clinically trained in any way. I could go on for hours about Sadia Khan.
And that's 100% true. She's not, she has a bachelor's degree, and I hear even her master's degree is fraudulent.
Correct.
And like what she did, she put the BPS logo, the British Psychological Services logo, on one of her certificates. That's not an accredited organization by the BPS. That's illegal. What else? Saying she has a DHA license in Dubai when she doesn't, that's illegal. And then making up the master's degree is illegal. And what I also learned, she was using that loophole in England that you can call yourself a psychologist.
Yes.
You just can't call yourself a clinical psychologist or a practicing psychologist. But she knew what she was doing with that. That was an intentional manipulation.
Oh, all of this was.
Everywhere else in the world, you can't call yourself a psychologist. You can't do that in America. You can't do that in Canada. So that was a small, like, she was using that small loophole. And I blame also the big shows.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say it. I think one of the bigger issues is that, like, how is it that we knew all about this, but yet she's on these massive podcasts, on these massive platforms with millions upon millions of people, and no one did their homework on her? I'm blown away by that. And so now you have her on these very large platforms talking about relationships, and on one, I don't remember which one it was, but she was talking about how, and this is the one where I think you and I connected on, where I'm laughing because it's so absurd. If you are in a narcissistic abusive relationship, it's your fault. You have low self-esteem because you should have seen these signs ahead of time, right? And that you're the one with the issue, not them. You're the one. Why can't you leave? Why'd you get into it in the first place? Which right there, that alone tells you all you need to know about her clinical backgrounds and her knowledge base on working with survivors. Because that right there is like Survivor 101, is that you can't just leave. Right? Your life is being threatened. The custody of your children are being threatened. Your money is being threatened. You have no resources. You've been isolated for 10 years. You don't even have anywhere to go. What are you supposed to do? I mean, you have no access to your bank accounts. I mean, on and on and on. And she's sitting there as an expert saying, well, you should just leave. And if you're not leaving, then you're asking for it. And are you kidding me? And I said, if that's how she feels and thinks, I mean, I think there's a whole host of things wrong with her. But when other people, aside from Sadia Khan, say, well, why didn't they just leave? I tell people, if you get to ask that question, then you're lucky. You're lucky that you're able to actually ask that question without understanding why there's so much wrong with that. And I think with Sadia Khan, I think a lot of it too is rage bait. She knows exactly what she's doing. She appeals very much to a very certain type of clientele. I mean, she knows what she's doing. She's not, this is it. She's not stupid. She knows what she's doing. She's creative and she's deliberate.
And that makes it worse. That makes it worse to me.
Hell of a lot worse. Yep. She's crafty. She is crafty. And so she knows exactly what she's doing. Now that she's getting blown up and issues an apology that's not apology, I think the best thing for Sadia Khan to do right now is to absolutely shut up, be quiet, say nothing, and do nothing. Because what she's doing, this back and forth, it's just chaoticness. And the best thing I think we can do now that she's blown up is give her zero attention, right? Is to just let, it's like you don't water a plant. It's going to die. It's going to die.
And because she's admitted to being a narcissist in one of her comments there.
Did you see the video where she basically admits to being a sociopath?
Oh, yeah.
Like rules. In my past life, this is what she said. If I wasn't a therapist, which she's not, if I wasn't a therapist, I would be a drug dealer. Why would I be a drug dealer? Because I don't abide by rules. Rules, schmools. Fleas. Rules don't apply to me. I do what I want when I want. I would be the best drug dealer out there. I kid you not. That is a video on her page in her highlights.
Yep.
I mean, you don't even need to say anything more.
Nope, that says it all about her there. And
says it all.
and I agree, people should ignore her. I try to help the men to ignore her because she's got some particular sway over some of them.
Yes,
like some of the men that maybe have like a mother wound, like, oh, attract Sadia Khan. She's going to tell me what's up. It's like, stop it. Get out of there.
That's what I'm saying. She knows what she is doing because she goes after a very select crowd of people.
I mean, and I always say to people, the social media algorithms, they're just like a narcissist, meaning the algorithm loves both positive and negative attention. What it doesn't like is being ignored, just like a narcissist, right? So is there any wonder why we see more and more of these figures rise to prominence?
Yeah. I'm curious, what's your take on how she ended up on some of these big platforms? Big podcasts?
I think they all just saw that she was getting views and they put views above everything else and what the attention they were going to get from it, the profit they were going to get from it. And, oh, who cares if she used a little bit of a loophole? Who cares if she forged her credentials? She's just an attractive woman who has that British accent and is going to help my channel. But they all enabled it. They enabled her to reach more people and then harm more people. That's my thinking on it. They could have done their due diligence, but they chose not to because it's easy to see, okay, she's using that loophole in England, but the rest of the world is not England. These podcasts are being broadcast to the entire world. And then in America, you can't just call yourself a psychologist. So she's saying that from where she is, where she's using that little bit of a loophole, but that's still deceiving and manipulating everyone else. And that's where a podcast host would say, no, you're not a licensed professional, because she's absolutely not. All licensed professionals could tell by how she speaks.
Oh, immediately. Yeah, immediately.
Like, because that's not how a licensed professional would talk. They're not going to berate you when you disagree. They're not going to call you a brokey, ugly, fat. My content's for attractive people. That's why you don't like it. All those kinds of things. Like, that's childish and ridiculous for someone in her position to be saying any of that.
I mean, the thought of calling one of my patients a pathetic loser. I mean, I can't even, like, it's so ridiculous. And this is the stuff that's out there. I have yet, and maybe I'm wrong, so correct me if I am, I haven't seen one of those podcasts or platforms make any sort of statement about any of this. And they've seen it. So I'm anxiously waiting to hear some feedback on that. And I
don't think you'll hear anything. I don't think you're going to hear anything. But I ripped them too, because they enabled it, just like the people who defend and are Sadia's flying monkeys in the comments. They're out there too. They'll say to me, you're only doing this because she is a woman. They'll say, what else will they say? They'll say, you're beating her up now. It's like, but like, no, she's abusing people and she's mistreating people and she's used deception and lies to do this. That deserves to be called out. I'm sorry.
And the other piece, and I think people don't understand this, is that the people that I should say, you know what, I take that back. I'm sure people understand this. I think where it gets like where we don't want to take it, but it's going to go, the people that she's targeting, that she charges thousands upon thousands of dollars to, quote, help these men. They're coming from such a vulnerable place, such an insecure place, and just want to feel better. And she love bombs them in this therapeutic relationship, sucks them in. The same playbook again, across the board, doesn't matter what the relationship is in. Same playbook. And she just love bombs and sucks them in and then makes them feel that they can't function in this world without her advice. I don't know if people understand the damage that does when all of a sudden, because she will, flip on them. Like the level of depression and anxiety that will result from that, from looking at this sole person who's supposed to save you, who has convinced you that they're going to make you this amazing human being, and therefore saying that where you're at right now is not good, right? Which you never tell anybody that you're working with because they're struggling. So that's not something that you would say. And to withdraw that and use that as a manipulation tactic, I am so beyond concerned for the mental health of the people. And I mean, even suicidal ideation, like that's where I am so concerned for the people that she has treated in this therapeutic process, because she has done a significant amount of harm. And I posted this somewhere. I don't remember where I posted it, but my concern is the mental health and well-being of the people that she has done this to. I mean, these are very vulnerable individuals, because you have to be if you fall into, and then she manipulates you even more because she gives these people exactly what they want. I'm going to help you. I'm going to make you strong, and then use that against them. I mean, that is classic narcissism 101.
Right. It's no emotional safety with her.
No,
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't disagree with someone or have a different opinion without them lashing out at you, there is no emotional safety there.
None. I love that. Yeah, none. There is none. And you won't ever get it unless she needs to trick you into getting it.
Exactly.
You know.
And that's why you see her also manipulation tactics were the playing the victim. Oh, I'm only being called out because I'm a woman who's brown. And then I'm only abusing people because I was bullied so much. Also part of the narcissistic playbook, right? I got to manage my image, so I have to play up this victim card.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And it's extremely dangerous. And listen, she's not going to stop. She'll just fly under the radar doing it for a little bit. She'll remake her identity. She'll come out as a self-aware narcissist. She'll do something. She'll do something, right?
Will.
Right. She'll do something to continue to boost that ego for herself and that delusion of who she is.
But at least the truth is out there. The truth is out there.
The truth is out there. The truth, thanks to you and some others. Yes, that truth is way out there.
Good.
Yes.
I mean, people should watch Abba and Preach's YouTube breakdowns of her.
Yes.
They go into a deep dive. So I recommend that.
Yes.
But Dr. Z, any other closing thoughts here before I let you roll?
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do and getting the word out there and giving people the education that they need on this, because it is not easy. So thank you.
No, thank you for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
We will talk soon.
And